everyone, I'm JoltKing627, and today we are going to be reviewing and fixing the Slamfire on the Nerf DinoSquad Armorstrike. Let's get right into it. Let's start out with an overview of the actual blaster. The Armorstrike is an 8-round pump-action revolver springer that is supposed to have Slamfire. We'll get to that in a little bit. The blaster has a couple of tactical rails on this back stock piece, and has also storage for 8 darts in the stock, so that you can reload your entire turret once. And they do in fact give you 16 elite darts, so you can in fact load all of the storage, which is nice, albeit they're still crappy elite darts. The grips on the blaster are actually fairly comfortable. They're nice and large. This pump grip is a little bit small, but it's actually fairly well shaped, so it's actually rather comfortable for me to use. Now, what isn't so comfortable is this tail section, which, if you're not careful, can rub against your wrist. But if you're careful, you can, in fact, avoid it, so it's not the worst thing in the world. As far as ease to load, you can reach 7 of the 8 barrels without rotating the cylinder. The only one you cannot reach is the one that resides under here. You can, in fact, squeeze darts into all 7 of the other barrels if you at least push through the muzzle. Now, there are some definite downsides to this blaster. Number one, I noticed, is that the darts have a very short barrel. That dart is fully pushed in. That's quite a bit of dart just hanging out. Secondly, it was nice of them to give us a couple of tactical rails, but number one, they're in kind of a useless place. And number two, they're backwards. They're literally backwards. So even if you wanted to put a scope on the tail of your dinosaur-themed blaster, your scope's gonna be backwards. That's just sad. And thirdly, and this is kind of a nitpick, I don't like this detail right here that tells you what the capacity of the blaster is. It looks like the same freaking font design that they would use on the actual packaging. And I don't know why, but that just looks disgusting to me. But that's just a personal thing. Now, as far as the aesthetics, I actually really like this blaster. They did well on using separate pieces instead of paint. In fact, this DinoSquad logo and this Nerf logo are the only things painted on this entire blaster. The DinoSquad logo isn't even on the other side because they had to put warning text there. The only part that isn't really painted on both sides is that Nerf logo. All the rest of this is separate plastic, and it actually looks pretty decent to me. The color separation is nice, and it would make it pretty easy to paint if you wanted to. Performance-wise, it gets about mid-60s FPS, which isn't that bad. It's about what we've come to expect from Hasbro. Now it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, Slamfire. As I mentioned earlier, this is in fact supposed to have Slamfire, but if you've ever seen any other videos on this, you'll know it doesn't. American Foam's review, it very clearly did not have Slamfire, and every other person I've seen with one of these says it does not have Slamfire. But it does, and that's the strangest thing. Okay, here on the workbench, as you can see, there is in fact a Slamfire bar in here. When I pull back the pump a little bit, and I will do that like so, you can see that this little arm moves backwards to stop the trigger from pulling it. And when you return the pump, it pushes it forward, just like any other Slamfire bar. So that begs the question, why doesn't this Slamfire in stock form? It's got the mechanism. Well, it's a pretty big screw-up on Hasbro's part. They made it so that the trigger could actually move too far back. And when it was doing so, it was actually torquing this little piece in here so that it would hit the catch anyway, making it so you basically couldn't Slamfire. I noticed this because if I pulled the trigger halfway, it would in fact Slamfire properly. So my fix is just that simple. I have hot glued some random bits of locks and stuff here that basically mean the trigger can only go back far enough to do what it needs to do. So it now Slamfires properly. What's sad here is Hasbro put all the effort into having even a little metal spring here for the actual Slamfire bar, and yet they couldn't be bothered to make the trigger stop where it should. It would have been as easy as just moving this edge back just a little bit to stop the trigger from being pulled quite as far. That's it. If you want to fix this, it's actually pretty easy. All you have to do is hot glue a stopper in this giant open space in the back. The amount of trigger draw I have on mine is almost exactly 3/16 of an inch, so that should be what you shoot for. Now, with that out of the way, let's go see it fire. Alright, first up we have the included elite darts. And now for Slamfire. And finally, some Dart Zone chili darts. Alright, final thoughts on the Armorstrike. My opinions on this are kind of split, if that makes any sense. If you're a kid, like, in the targeted age range of basically, like, 8 and up, I think this is a great blaster. It does everything it needs to for a stock blaster, has a decent capacity, and is easier to reload than the other similar blaster on the market, the Roblox Bees blaster, which can only load from one barrel at a time. As a children's toy, it actually works pretty decently. If you have small hands, it's a little easier to get around the tail. Now, adults, on the other hand, I think this is not going to be a win for. It's a little bit bulky for the 8-round capacity, and it's a little uncomfortable for large hands because of that tail. The performance, obviously, is in line with other stock Hasbro blasters, but for adults, you're probably going to want a little more, especially to compete against things like the Dart Zone Pro blasters that we have been so spoiled with. That is not to say this is a bad blaster. Again, it's pretty good for kids, and I actually really enjoy it as a plinker. To be honest, though, it's kind of shameful that they managed to screw up the Slamfire mechanism that badly. That is just really, really annoying. Sure, it's pretty easy to fix, but still, it should have been fixed from the beginning. I shouldn't have to go in there and make the thing actually function properly. To sum things up, I don't think the Armorstrike is a bad blaster. It's just one that is really geared toward that target audience of ages 8 and up. I love silly things, and this is no exception. I absolutely love plinking around with this. It's a ton of fun. It's just not going to be very good for competitive play. Honestly, that's about all I have to say. Let me know what you think of this blaster in the comment section down below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and thank you all for watching.